What if the end of the world has already begun? Not with fire or thunder, but with a silent shift beneath the surface of reality. What if the ancient visions we once dismissed as metaphor now echo through headlines, pandemics, and the quiet disillusionment in modern hearts? The Book of Revelation, written by the exiled Apostle John on the island of Patmos, is no ordinary scripture. It is a divine dreamscape, an alchemical mirror of humanity's fate. Layered in symbolism, cloaked in cosmic language, it speaks in riddles that pierce the soul. Not merely a prophecy, but a portal, a sacred unveiling. It invites us to see not just what may come, but who we truly are. Through Revelation, we witness not only the collapse of empires and stars, but the deeper unraveling of human pride, illusion, and fear. It is a psychological and spiritual initiation, a reckoning. And in a time where quantum theory tells us that consciousness shapes reality, Revelation feels less like distant myth and more like an encoded truth, waiting to be remembered. So stay with me. Because what lies ahead are not just the scariest prophecies ever written, but revelations that may already be happening within us. If these ancient echoes stir something deep within you, if you've ever felt that truth hides behind the veil of the visible, then don't walk this path alone. Let us journey together into the hidden, the sacred, the eternal. Like, comment, and subscribe to Eternal Wisdom, where each revelation leads us deeper into the mystery, and every question brings us closer to the light. The truth is not just out there, it's awakening within you. Before we can understand the prophecies of Revelation, we must first understand the nature of Revelation itself. This is not a book like others. It does not unfold linearly, nor does it offer comfort in predictability. Instead, it weaves a tapestry of visions, each one charged with archetypal power. Written by the Apostle John during his exile on the rocky island of Patmos, Revelation is both a warning and a promise. A book of endings and beginnings, of final judgments and eternal truths. And yet, it is not merely a Christian text. Its echoes reach beyond the boundaries of dogma. It is an apocalyptic dream, shared not just by one man, but by the collective unconscious of all humanity. Apocalypse. The word has become synonymous with catastrophe, but in its original Greek, apocalypsis, it means something far more profound. An unveiling, a revealing of what has always been hidden. And perhaps what Revelation reveals most clearly is us. Let us begin with one of its most striking symbols. In the 6th chapter of Revelation, the seals are broken, and with each seal comes a vision. The first four release the infamous Four Horsemen, figures that have haunted the imaginations of prophets, artists, and dreamers for centuries. Each horseman rides with a different color, a different mission, and a different energy. But they are not merely figures of fantasy. They are embodiments of forces that have shaped human history again and again. The first horseman rides a white horse, carrying a bow and wearing a crown. He is often misunderstood. Some have seen him as Christ, others as the Antichrist. But most scholars and mystics interpret this rider as conquest. Not the noble kind, but the conquest driven by ego, empire, and illusion. He represents humanity's desire to dominate, to possess, to colonize, to subjugate. He rides into history cloaked in righteousness, yet his wake is soaked in blood. The second horseman follows on a fiery red horse wielding a great sword. He is war-raw, merciless, and relentless. Where the first brings domination, the second brings destruction. The red of his steed is not just the color of blood, but of anger, division, and rage. He tears nations apart, sets brother against brother, and thrives on the illusion of separation. Then comes the third horseman, riding a black horse. He holds a pair of scales, a symbol of measurement, of economy, of imbalance. He is famine. He doesn't bring hunger directly, he brings the systems that cause it. Economic disparity, manipulated scarcity, the illusion of lack. In a world of plenty, he whispers the lie that there is not enough. that others must suffer so a few may thrive. Finally, the most feared arrives. The fourth horseman rides a pale horse, sickly and greenish like decaying flesh. His name is Death, and Hades follows close behind him. He needs no weapon, for his presence alone is enough. He is the great leveler, the inescapable shadow that reminds us of our mortality. But in the symbolic language of Revelation, death is not the end. It is a doorway, a reckoning, a teacher of urgency and humility. Together, these horsemen represent more than just doom. They represent the great cycles of human suffering, the karmic loops we return to when we ignore wisdom, compassion, and inner truth. They are archetypes of our collective shadow, and they ride not just in ancient prophecy, but across the landscape of our modern world. Think of the pandemics that sweep across nations, the wars still raging, often in the name of ideology, the widening gap between rich and poor, the climate disasters displacing millions. The horsemen ride, not on clouds or in fire, but through our systems, our choices, our collective unconscious. Yet Revelation doesn't introduce these figures to scare us. It reveals them so we might recognize the forces at play within us and around us, and choose differently. Carl Jung, the great analytical psychologist, once said that what we do not bring to consciousness appears in our lives as fate. Perhaps Revelation is not a glimpse into an unavoidable future, but a mirror held up to the soul of humanity, a symbolic expression of all that we repress, deny, and refuse to confront. In Jungian terms, the book of Revelation can be read as a journey through the shadow, the darker aspects of the self and of the world. Each vision, each symbol is an invitation to integrate, to awaken. The horseman, the beast, the false prophet, these are not only outer forces, they are reflections of inner disintegration when we live disconnected from truth. Modern neuroscience has also uncovered something curious. Our brains are wired to respond strongly to symbols. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up not just when we see danger, but when we imagine it. When we read of the horseman or the mark of the beast, our bodies feel the truth, even before the mind can rationalize it. The power of prophecy lies not just in prediction, but in its capacity to resonate on a cellular, emotional, and spiritual level. So ask yourself, which horseman do you see riding through your own life? Conquest in the form of egoic ambition, war in the form of inner conflict, famine in the form of scarcity thinking, or death in the form of fear and disconnection. Each figure offers a message, and each message offers a choice. In many ancient traditions, apocalypse is not the end, it is the great unveiling before rebirth. The Mayans, the Hindus, the Gnostics, all spoke of cosmic cycles where destruction is a precursor to enlightenment. In this way, the book of Revelation is less like a horror story and more like a spiritual initiation, a descent into darkness to awaken the divine light. The Apostle John, who received these visions, did not write them in comfort. He was imprisoned, exiled, and surrounded by the collapse of his world, and yet he chose to write of the eternal. He chose to share visions that transcend empire and time. Because Revelation is not about one moment in history, it is about the eternal now. Every generation, every civilization must face its own apocalypse, its own unveiling, and in the ruins of illusion, the soul either awakens or retreats. Revelation is not passive, it demands that we look, that we feel, that we confront, and in doing so it prepares us not just for some far-off tribulation, but for the everyday choices that shape our destiny. The beginning of Revelation is, then, a sacred compass. It orients us not geographically but spiritually. It invites us to take a hard, honest look at the world around us and within us. Why does suffering repeat? Why does power corrupt? Why do we, knowing the price of war, still choose it again and again? These are not just political or social questions, they are spiritual ones, and the answers lie not in fear, but in awakening. Perhaps the Four Horsemen are not signs of doom, but alarms. They ride through the pages of prophecy and the fabric of our society, not to condemn us, but to wake us up before it's too late. For those who have eyes to see, the symbols are clear. The time is not coming. The time is now. As we descend deeper into the visions of Revelation, the imagery becomes even more layered, the warnings more urgent, and the symbols more enigmatic. But hidden within these terrifying prophecies are truths far older than the text itself. They are truths encoded in myth, in psyche, and in soul, waiting for the right eyes to see them. And perhaps the most haunting of these symbols is the mark of the beast. It forced all people, great and small, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads. Revelation 13:16. This single verse has inspired centuries of fear, speculation, and fascination. The mark of the beast has been imagined as a literal tattoo, a barcode, a microchip, a global economic control system. But, as with most things in Revelation, the literal interpretation barely scratches the surface. To receive a mark on the right hand or forehead is deeply symbolic. In ancient Jewish and early Christian traditions, the forehead represented thought, belief, and identity. The hand, action and will. Together, they speak not just of an external sign, but of an internal alignment, a choice of mind and deed, a declaration, whether conscious or not, of allegiance. And so the mark of the beast is not merely a physical stamp, it is a spiritual one. It represents submission to a false order, to an inverted truth. To take the mark is to internalize the values of a system rooted in deception, power without love, progress without soul, control without wisdom. In our time we may ask, is this mark already among us? When we sacrifice our integrity for comfort, when we silence our truth to be accepted by the machine, when we let our actions be dictated by fear rather than by faith, have we in some way already begun to bear the mark? It may not be etched in flesh, but in the way we think, the way we choose, the way we live. This is the subtle seduction of the beast. It doesn't appear as monstrous at first. It appears necessary, logical, beneficial. It speaks the language of safety, of unity, of evolution. But its foundation is control, and its reward is spiritual death. Revelation reveals not one adversary but two, each with its own dark genius. The beast rises from the sea, a creature of terrifying power, with 7 heads and 10 horns. It wears crowns, blasphemes against God, and rules over nations. It is both empire and archetype, an embodiment of corrupt power structures that defy divine order. But the beast does not act alone. Enter the false prophet, the second beast. Rising from the earth, he appears gentler, like a lamb, but speaks with the voice of the dragon. His purpose? To persuade, to perform false miracles, to convince the world to worship the first beast, to spiritualize the system of control. This is perhaps the most chilling part of the prophecy. Evil does not always come with fangs. Sometimes it comes with a smile, with good intentions, with holy language. The false prophet represents spiritual manipulation, where truth is twisted and faith is used as a weapon, where the sacred is imitated for personal gain and the masses are led unknowingly into bondage. We see this pattern throughout history. Empires that used religion to justify conquest, institutions that promised salvation while enforcing control, leaders who spoke of peace while stoking division. But it's not just out there. The beast and the false prophet also live within us. Every time we elevate the ego over the soul, every time we betray our inner voice for the comfort of the crowd, every time we preach what we do not practice, we participate in this ancient deception. Revelation holds up a mirror, not just to the end of the world, but to the false worlds we build inside ourselves. The spiritual themes in Revelation resonate even through the lens of modern psychology. Consider the work of Carl Jung, who warned of the dangers of the collective shadow, the repressed, denied parts of human nature that, when unacknowledged, erupt as social evil. Jung wrote, "The devil is not only an external reality but something that lives in man himself." Revelation personifies this concept in the beast and the false prophet. They are outer forces, yes, but they are also internal energies, psychological archetypes of deception, ego inflation, and spiritual bypassing. In times of chaos, we are especially vulnerable to these forces. When fear dominates, we look for strong leaders. When truth is uncertain, we crave certainty. When the sacred is lost, we follow anything that claims to offer meaning, even if it's a lie. This is the environment where the mark of the beast becomes attractive. It promises peace in exchange for submission, unity in exchange for surrender, security in exchange for your soul. But consciousness demands more. It asks us to see the hidden patterns, to discern between appearance and essence, between true light and false illumination. Even in the world of quantum physics, fascinating parallels arise. Quantum mechanics teaches us that observation affects reality, that what we focus on, intention, belief, thought, has the power to shape outcomes. This echoes ancient spiritual truths, that the inner world creates the outer. And so, if the beast represents a world built on fear, greed, and illusion, then to believe in that world, to give it attention, obedience, and emotion, is to help solidify it. But to awaken, to shift awareness, to choose differently, is to collapse that timeline, to shift the collective field, to come out of Babylon, as Revelation urges. In this light, Revelation becomes more than prophecy. It becomes a call to quantum awakening, a call to reclaim our co-creative power and align with a higher truth. Another symbol looms large in Revelation's vision, Babylon the Great. Described as a seductive harlot clothed in luxury, drunk on the blood of saints, she sits atop many waters, controlling kings and nations. Babylon is not just a city, she is a system, a way of life, a society built on spiritual betrayal, masked by beauty and wealth. In Revelation 18, her fall is sudden. Fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling for demons. What she represents is chillingly familiar. A culture that prizes profit over people. A world intoxicated by entertainment and numb to truth. An empire of consumption, built on the illusion of permanence. And yet, Revelation's prophecy is clear. Her destruction comes swiftly, not because of a wrathful God, but because her foundation is false. No structure built on illusion can stand forever. We see reflections of Babylon today in systems that exploit, in institutions that deceive, in societies that glorify the temporary and ignore the eternal. But we also see her in ourselves, in the ways we cling to comfort, deny the soul, and forget the sacred. Her fall is our wake-up call. At first glance, these symbols, the mark, the beast, the false prophet, Babylon, seem terrifying. But when we look closer, we see that they all share one purpose: to unmask illusion. Revelation is not simply about what will happen, but about what always happens when we stray from truth. It's the pattern of corruption and redemption, fall and restoration that plays out in every age and in every heart. We are not helpless in this story. We are not spectators to doom. We are dreamers inside the dream, shapers of prophecy. And that is why Revelation reveals these terrifying images, so that we may no longer be afraid of them, so that we may recognize them for what they are: false gods, hollow systems, empty promises, and return to what is real. Revelation is not a message of despair. It is a call to discernment, a call to spiritual clarity in a world of seductive lies. And the greatest act of rebellion in a world built on illusion is to live in truth, to refuse the mark by choosing love over fear, to resist the beast by anchoring in spirit over ego, to deny the false prophet by embodying wisdom rather than spectacle, to leave Babylon by choosing simplicity, authenticity, and sacred purpose. This is not easy, but it is possible. And those who do, those who endure, who awaken, are called something beautiful in Revelation. They have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. In other words, they have transformed through love, through sacrifice, through sacred vision. There comes a moment in every sacred text, hidden between the symbols and the stories, where the veil lifts just enough to reveal the true question it asks. Not what will happen, but who will we become? As we journey deeper into the visions of Revelation, the chaos begins to take shape, not as senseless destruction, but as a mirror held up to the human soul. The thunder, the beasts, the plagues, they are not just cosmic punishments. They are archetypal awakenings, expressions of the inner apocalypse that unfolds in every person, in every civilization, when truth is ignored and spirit is forgotten. This is the true terror of Revelation, not that the world ends, but that we never wake up before it does. In Revelation 20, we encounter one of the most dramatic and chilling scenes in all of Scripture, the final judgment. It is the ultimate unveiling. The dead, great and small, stand before a radiant throne. Books are opened. Every thought, every word, every hidden intention is brought into light. There is no escape, no disguise, only the raw, unfiltered truth of who we have been. And yet, is this moment reserved for the end of time? Or does it echo in every quiet hour of self-reflection, every dark night of the soul, when we are forced to confront who we truly are? The final judgment is not just eschatological, it is existential. Every major spiritual tradition speaks of this reckoning. In Tibetan Buddhism, the bardo is the post-death state, where the soul encounters projections of its own mind, demons, angels, and everything in between. In Hinduism, karma determines the quality of rebirth. In Christianity, the Book of Life holds the names of those aligned with divine truth. But perhaps they are all pointing to the same thing, that consciousness survives, that the soul carries the imprint of our choices, that judgment is not about wrath, but about alignment. To be judged, in the symbolic sense, is to see ourselves fully, to feel the weight of the lives we've shaped through action and intention, and in that revelation, the soul either expands into light or recoils into separation. We are not punished by our choices. We are transformed by them. We become what we serve. Modern neuroscience tells us that every experience we have alters the brain, physically reshaping our neural pathways. Trauma rewires us. Repetition builds habit. Intention strengthens focus. Memory isn't static. It's a living, malleable archive. Now, imagine this. Through the lens of Revelation, the books being opened are not just metaphors. They reflect a profound truth, that nothing is ever lost. Every word, every thought, every secret motivation is stored, not just in heaven, but in the very fabric of our being. Quantum physics has even suggested that information is never truly destroyed. It remains embedded in the quantum field. If this is true, then perhaps the Book of Life is more than allegory. Perhaps it is the eternal memory of the cosmos, reflecting back what we have given to it. This makes every choice sacred, every act of kindness etched in light, every betrayal of love woven into the field. And so judgment is not about a deity's wrath, but about resonance. What energy have we chosen? What frequency have we lived by? We stand at the center of Revelation, not as passive observers, but as co-authors of our fate. Before one ascends, one must descend. This is the law of initiation in every mystery school, every path of enlightenment, and Revelation follows this pattern to perfection. It does not begin with paradise, it begins with plagues, with beasts, with Babylon. Why? because the soul cannot return to God until it has confronted its own distortions, until it has stared directly into the face of illusion and chosen to walk away. This is the meaning behind the plagues, the wars, the judgments. They are not punishments, but purifications, catalysts for awakening, shatterings of false identity. The mystics of every age knew this well. St. John of the Cross called it the dark night of the soul, a period of spiritual desolation where the ego dissolves and only faith remains. Sufis called it fana, the annihilation of self. Shamans speak of ego death in vision quests. And today psychology recognizes similar patterns in trauma healing and shadow work. Revelation then is not just about world events, it is the map of a soul in transformation, the death of illusion, the confrontation with fear, the rebirth into divine clarity. And the question it asks is timeless. Will we endure the dark, to be reborn in the light? Revelation often evokes images of predestination, sealed fates, divine decrees, irreversible endings. But beneath this apparent fatalism lies a deeper mystery. Free will remains intact. The mark of the beast is not forced, it is offered. The warnings are not hidden, they are declared. Babylon's fall is not sudden, it is prophesied. In every chapter, a choice is present. A call to awaken, to return, to align. The faithful are preserved not because they are perfect, but because they choose truth when deception reigns. This is the divine paradox, that even in prophecy choice remains, that destiny is a path, not a prison, and that our consciousness is the bridge between fate and freedom. We are not here to await the end. We are here to meet it consciously and shape what comes after. Revelation ends not in chaos, but in renewal. A new heaven, a new earth, a new Jerusalem, descending from the divine. This new world is not just external, it is internal, a state of being. Behold, the dwelling place of God is with man. Revelation 21, verse 03. In mystical language, this points to a profound truth, that the ultimate temple is within. The ultimate judgment is within. The ultimate kingdom is within. Jesus himself echoed this in Luke 17:21. The kingdom of God is within you. So the plagues, the trumpets, the horsemen, they are storms of the soul. And the final judgment is the soul's reckoning with itself. But the end is not destruction, the end is integration. What we call the apocalypse may simply be the moment when all illusions fall and only love remains. Let us pause and ask a question born not of prophecy, but of presence. If the world ended tomorrow, who would you be without it? Without your name, without your possessions, without your roles, your achievements, your fears, who remains? This is the question the final judgment whispers. Not who did the world think you were, but who were you when no one was watching? Not how loudly did you speak truth, but how deeply did you live it? In that silence, when the world is stripped away, what remains is the soul's true light. Revelation is not asking us to fear the end. It is asking us to meet it with eyes wide open, to let go of the false self and rise. In the end, all of Revelation leads here, not to wrath, but to invitation, to return, to realign, to remember. The judgment is not condemnation, it is clarity. The beast is not all-powerful, it is illusion. The world does not end in darkness, it transforms in light. And consciousness is the key to every gate. We are the dreamers of this vision. We are the temple, the priest, the prophet. We are the ones who must decide, every day, whether to bear the mark of illusion or to walk in truth. And as Revelation teaches us, those who endure, those who awaken, those who remember, they shall see a new heaven, a new earth, and a light that never fades. What good is a prophecy if it only terrifies but never transforms? What purpose does a sacred text serve if not to awaken the soul and guide it home? The book of Revelation, with all its thunder and terror, is not merely a record of what is to come. It is a living manuscript, a soul's manual, meant to be lived. Every image, every judgment, every promise of light through darkness carries within it an unspoken question. What will you do with this knowledge? Will you turn away in fear, or will you step forward in faith? The final chapters of Revelation do not simply warn of destruction, they invite rebirth. And that invitation begins now, not at the end of the world, but at the threshold of your own awareness. Before empires fall or stars collapse, a subtler shift must occur. The return to presence. In the rush of modern life, we rarely stop to feel the moment. Our days are filled with noise, distraction, and survival. But Revelation doesn't call for frantic preparation. It calls for sacred stillness, a turning inward, a recalibration of soul. This begins with awareness. Every day, carve out space for silence. Whether 5 minutes or 50, offer yourself to stillness. This is not idleness, it is spiritual rebellion. In a world that rewards speed, stillness becomes a revolutionary act of alignment. Breathe in, breathe out. Ask, what energy am I bringing into this moment? Let that question shape your day. In Revelation, the faithful are described as those who follow the Lamb wherever he goes. Revelation 14, verse 4. The Lamb is not always loud, sometimes he whispers, and only in stillness can we hear the whisper of the divine. Let your day begin not with the world's demands, but with sacred intention. The mark of the beast, the false prophet, the rise of Babylon, these are not just apocalyptic characters. They are energies, patterns of consciousness that can seduce the mind and co-opt the soul. In a world flooded with media, false gurus, spiritual influences, and manufactured truth, discernment is a spiritual necessity. Ask yourself, does this teaching liberate or manipulate? Does this voice call me deeper into truth or into dependency and fear? Does this practice align me with love or distract me with spectacle? Discernment is not cynicism, it is clarity born of inner stillness. It is the soul's radar, trained not by fear but by wisdom. In Revelation, deception masquerades as light, the false prophet performs miracles, Babylon appears beautiful, even divine, but beneath the glamour lies rot. Today, deception is more subtle than ever. It wears the clothes of success, spirituality, even peace, but its energy is different. Where truth feels liberating, deception feels addictive. One of the most powerful practices you can adopt is this. Before accepting any truth, feel it in your body. The soul knows. Listen. Come out of her, my people. Revelation 18:04. This plea, delivered by a voice from heaven, calls God's people to leave Babylon before her destruction. But Babylon is not just a city, it is a state of mind. It is the addiction to wealth, distraction, and performance. It is the illusion of control, the lie of self-sufficiency, the culture that seduces us to trade our souls for comfort. To come out of Babylon today means to simplify, to detach from the systems, internal and external, that keep us asleep. You don't need to abandon the world, but you can live within it, not of it. Reclaim time for what matters. Turn off the voices that numb you. Choose depth over noise. Value peace over performance. This is sacred resistance, not loud, not violent, but revolutionary in its simplicity. Every time you choose to prioritize spirit over ego, presence over distraction, truth over conformity, you are leaving Babylon behind. And in doing so, you make space for the new Jerusalem to rise within you. One of the most powerful messages in Revelation is this. The kingdom of heaven is not just after death, it begins here. The new heaven and new earth are not rewards, they are reflections of consciousness. As above, so below, as within, so without. To live revelation is to align daily with the frequency of divine reality, even in a world that resists it. Try this practice each morning. Before stepping into your day, speak aloud. I align with truth, I align with peace, I align with love. Today I choose the kingdom. Let these words set the tone for your actions, decisions, and thoughts. They're not just affirmations, they are vibrational keys. And consciousness responds to intention like a field responds to light. Even small acts, an honest conversation, a kind gesture, a moment of forgiveness, are bricks in the foundation of this inner Jerusalem. The city of God is not built in stone, it is built in soul. Revelation calls for endurance. Over and over, it praises those who overcome. This is not passive belief, it is spiritual maturity. You are not meant to live in fear of prophecy. You are meant to stand as witness, anchored, aware, and awake. The spiritual path requires this, that you become the seer, not the swayed. The storm may rage, but the witness remains still. Here is a powerful reflection. Imagine yourself at the end of all things. The world crumbles, the sky falls, the systems collapse. Who are you in that moment? If fear is the answer, begin again. If love remains, walk on. Train yourself now to observe with clarity, to feel without reacting, to trust without clinging. The book of Revelation is full of drama, but your soul's path doesn't need to be. Let your faith be steady, let your peace be defiant, let your love be louder than the noise. Revelation speaks of those who washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. This strange phrase is deeply symbolic. It represents spiritual cleansing, the process of purification through surrender, reflection, and transformation. Each night, give yourself this gift, a time to wash your robe, to examine the day, to release the false, and to renew the soul. Ask, where did I act in love? Where did I act in fear? What do I need to forgive? What do I need to let go? This is not about guilt, it's about clarity, about removing the dust from the mirror of the soul. End with gratitude. Name one truth you discovered today, one lesson, one grace. Let your pillow be your altar. Let sleep be your sanctuary. And let each day be lived more consciously than the one before. So often people approach Revelation as a map of disasters to survive. But what if it is a manual for awakening? What if the true preparation isn't building bunkers or decoding symbols, but living with such clarity and love that no matter what comes, you remain whole? That is the heart of spiritual practice, not escape, but embodiment. Embody the new earth by practicing peace. Embody the kingdom by becoming love in action. Embody eternity by remembering that you are not your fear, your status, or your failures. You are light. Every meditation, every prayer, every honest moment becomes part of the world we are building together. The final act of revelation is not collapse, it is consummation. Heaven and earth become one. God dwells with humanity. The veil is torn, and what was hidden is now seen. That is not just a prophecy, it is a promise, a blueprint, a dream we are called to co-create. And every day that you choose truth, every time you pause to breathe, every time you extend grace instead of judgment, you help fulfill that vision. The apocalypse is not just an event, it is a process. The unveiling is already happening. And you, dear soul, you are part of it. So now we stand at the edge of the vision. We have walked through the fire of prophecy, seen the horsemen ride, heard the thunder of judgment, and glimpsed the glory of a new heaven and a new earth. And yet, the most important revelation is not what lies in the pages of the book, but what stirs in your heart as you read it. A revelation was never meant to simply predict an ending. It was meant to awaken a beginning within you. Each symbol we've explored, the mark of the beast, the fall of Babylon, the final judgment, is not only cosmic, it's intimate. These are truths unfolding not just across history, but inside your daily choices, your private thoughts, your silent prayers. This is the great unveiling, not of the world, but of the soul. And so the question lingers, will you live as one asleep in the shadow of fear? Or will you rise as one awakened by the light of truth? Because in the end, revelation is not about destruction. It is about decision, about destiny, about divine return. The storm will pass, the kingdoms will fall, the illusions will burn, but the soul, anchored in love, will endure. This is your invitation, your inheritance, your call to rise. And now, dear seeker, if these visions spoke to something ancient and sacred within you, like this video, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Eternal Wisdom, because the revelation is not over. It lives on, in you, and the journey has only just begun.